Egyptian government saying it would look at amending the constitution and produce a steering committee to take that forward, but certainly the protesters in Tahrir Square have been calling for nothing less than Hosni Mubarak to go. As they seem to calm down a little bit in the square there into that tent city, Al Jazeera has obtained what appears to be images of prisoners being released by Egyptian authorities during the first few days of the protest. Alan Fisher's got a look at that and some of the other developments.
This gives an idea of the chaos that has gripped Egypt for several days. In the city of Fayoum, around 80 kilometres from Cairo, prisoners in a police holding centre are freed. Among them, criminals given long sentences and men waiting for trial. With their blankets and bags, they simply walk past the police. The decision to free them taken by senior officers who had no way of getting them to where they needed to be, because angry crowds attacked the police station, destroying all cars and vans. In Cairo itself, the city is gearing up for a new day of protest against President Hosni Mubarak.
Thousands of people that come here every day, despite the rain, the cold, the violence that we've had a couple of days with the thugs, and even with the negative media propaganda, it's not keeping people at home. People are coming to see it for themselves, and when they see the truth for themselves, they keep on coming every day.
As life begins to get back to normal in most parts of the Egyptian capital, there was a concern among protesters momentum was being lost. But one of the leading figures in the demonstrations says people are still committed to changing the face of Egypt.
Solidarity is so high, and everybody's trying to help us. So we've managed to counter all of their attempts to make sitting in Tahrir a miserable act. In fact, it's a very glorious moment.
The position of the US is becoming increasingly clear.
Egypt has to negotiate a path, and I think we're making progress.
So this isn't about instant change, but managed change, with President Mubarak remaining in charge for now.
If President Mubarak stepped down today, under the existing constitution, as I understand it, there would have to be an election within 60 days. A question that would pose is whether Egypt today is prepared to have a competitive, open election.
The calls from the square on Tuesday will be long and loud, but unlikely to be listened to by the man currently in charge. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera.
Live to Hoda Abdul Hamid now, who is overlooking Tahrir Square in Cairo. Hoda, do you think any of that news has filtered down to the people there, that there will be, according to the Vice President, constitutional changes?
I think the news has begun to come here on the square, and I think it's received as a very good first step. However, they do want the constitutional changes, and specifically, Article 76 and 77 of the Constitution, which at the moment basically ensured that the ruling National Democratic Party of President Hosni Mubarak would win elections, and also ensured unlimited terms for whoever is president. So I think that is a beginning of a change. I don't think they will back off immediately still, because there are so many other things they're asking for now. You know, I think the rallying cry is for President Mubarak to leave. However, there is also a lot of demands for actually the whole system to be overhauled. This decree is certainly a first step, but there's other very important issues, like the lifting of the state of emergency, or the emergency law, that gives basically the security forces all the power they want, unlimited power to arrest and detain randomly who they want. And this is one other issue that needs to be done if the government seriously wants the people here from Liberation Square to evacuate at some point, and to feel safe that once they go home they don't get picked up. That's a very big issue on the minds of the organizers, and until now they don't have any kind of proof that, or guarantee, if you will, that will actually happen once they evacuate. So still a lot of lack of trust between the two sides.
Hoda, Tahrir Square today, I was asking you about an hour ago if you thought any of the momentum had been lost. Just looking at our live picture, it looks absolutely packed there at the moment. Perhaps momentum still very much there.
Well, yes, that's right, and it's not only absolutely packed. I can see just from my vantage point, large queues, long queues of people trying to make their way in. You know, as we said earlier, some of the businesses have opened, people do go to work, but because of the curfew, work hours have been very limited. So there is an expectation that now 1 o'clock Cairo time, a lot of the government offices will be shut down. 3 o'clock, the private sector shuts down, and there's an expectation that more people will come here. That is something the organizers are very proud about, because as I've been saying all along, their mood goes up and down depending on the amount of people that come in. That is the one barometer of whether their message is still well acclaimed and well received among the wider Egyptian population.
Just from your vantage point, Hoda, can you tell me also, because you were describing the people sort of streaming in from outside of the square, what sort of access have they got at the moment? What sort of restrictions, army, things like that?
Well, I haven't experienced any restrictions from where I come in. Now, I spoke to other people over the past few days. There were some worries that the army was trying to limit the area available for the protest, that the army was trying also to pick some people in. I haven't heard that complaint for the last, let's say, 12 to 16 hours. Certainly, there's always apprehension among the protesters on who is outside their perimeter. When they go out of the barricade, there's all sorts of rumors going on that it's full of plainclothes policemen, that the government is still trying to monitor. There's also a lot of talk of people going around the square carrying mobile phones and just taking profile pictures of people randomly, and so the apprehension, the scare, there is still a slight element of fear here because of this lack of trust that the government was actually serious of changing its ways. That once all this calms down, then the retribution from the government will happen like it used to happen in the old ways, meaning once you have all these pictures of people, you can go and pick them up from home and then take them to the Interior Ministry. So certainly a lot of apprehension. None of that has been proven, but I'm just telling you this to give you a sort of flavor on what kind of mood is circulating on Liberation Square.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Painting a great picture for us there, Hoda Abdelhamid, live high above Tahrir Square, where those protests are now stretching into a third week. And with that, there are a few worries in the pro-democracy camp that fatigue might be setting in. So protesters are doing all they can to keep up their spirits at the heart of the movement in Liberation Square. Shireen Tandros is there.
For years, he's been censored and silenced. Now, journalist Sharif Araf says he and his colleagues will tell the truth using their new paper called Liberation Square. And the protesters are hungry for it.
For the government, this is an illegal newspaper, but it gets its authority from the Egyptian people. I'm giving it out to people without money because they have paid with their lives for this freedom of the press.
The square has become a mini utopia in central Cairo. Political opinions aired, gender and sectarian divisions nowhere to be found. People feed and clothe each other here. Medical areas have been set up by doctors joining in with the protesters. The crime and sexual harassment so prevalent in the country seems absent in this square.
So this is essentially the lost and found area, and people have been handing in all sorts of things, from ID cards that they found lying about to mobile phones, sunglasses. Some people have even come and handed in money and coins that they found just lying about. And it's all being protected by the protesters themselves, who have formed this human chain around this area to make sure nobody comes in and tries to take that's been found.
But as the days drag on, tension grows. Organisers worried about infiltrators hostile to their cause are becoming increasingly suspicious of those coming in and those filming in the square.
We are preparing for everything and are afraid of anything that could spoil this revolution. People enter the square, but we don't know if they are with us or not. So we need to tighten the security.
Keeping the momentum going is key to this uprising. There are constant events to entertain and rally people. The more the government appears to be giving in to the demands of the protesters, the more ordinary Egyptians start to question the necessity of the sit-in. For those here, though, any change whilst Hosni Mubarak stays in power is cosmetic. And their message to the president is clear. Shireen Tadros, Al Jazeera, Cairo.
Going to leave Egypt for then. Now look at some other news. The defence lawyer for former Liberian President Charles Taylor has walked out of the UN-backed Special Court for Sierra Leone in protest at the proceedings. Taylor faces 11 charges of war crimes and crimes against humanities. Prosecutors at The Hague say he used terror tactics to secure control of the diamond mines in Sierra Leone. He denies all those charges, though, including using child soldiers in wars which killed 250,000 people in West Africa.